Amina was a shy 18-year-old who struggled a lot with her weight, tipping the scales at 265 pounds. At Harmony High School, she was the biggest student, often the target of very mean jokes from classmates and other students, making her feel isolated and hurt. But though she hated how she was treated at school, there was one good thing about school. Jason, the most handsome and popular boy in school. Amina had a huge crush on him, but she knew Jason did not even know she existed. One day during lunch, Jason walked up to her and invited her to a party at his house. Amina looked around, thinking Jason was talking to someone else around her, but she was alone. She was very shocked to know that he knew her. "This is my chance to make him notice me," she said. Harmony High was a school for children from prestigious and very affluent families, so Amina was determined to make a good impression. This was the first time she had been invited to anything in her 4 years in Harmony High School. She rented a beautiful dress and borrowed a luxury car, even borrowed money from her friends to buy an expensive gift for Jason. She was very happy and hopeful. "This is the beginning of me and Jason," she thought to herself. When the day of the party arrived, Amina was nervous but excited. She arrived in her rented dress and borrowed car. Jason was standing outside with his friends, so she walked up to him and gave him the expensive gift. But just when she thought everything was going well, something terrible happened. Jason and his friends started laughing hysterically. Amina's stomach twisted. Why were they laughing? Jason then called everyone's attention, and Amina's heart raced. She thought he was going to say something nice about her, but instead, he revealed that it was all a bet to see if I could get the ugliest girl in school to fall for me. The room erupted in laughter. Amina's face turned gray, her heart shattered. It was too much. She turned around and ran out of the party crying. The humiliation didn't end there. One of Jason's friends was videoing the whole prank, so she put it on social media. Everyone online mocked Amina, calling her mean names like desperado and out of your league. Her heart ached with shame and betrayal, and anger began to grow inside her. She cried for days and then decided to take revenge. "I will make them regret this." For 2 weeks, Amina didn't leave her room. She was consumed by thoughts of revenge. She refused to talk to anyone, but she couldn't hide forever. When she finally went back to school, as soon as she walked into the classroom, laughter erupted again. Jason's mocking voice filled the room, and everyone laughed even harder. Then from nowhere, William, a quiet boy that sits at the back of the class, stepped in. He grabbed one of Jason's friends who was taunting Amina and pushed him away. "Leave her alone," firmly, his voice trembling with courage. The class went silent. He had taken a stand, something no one else dared to do. Jason snapped back immediately. "Why don't you worry about your own life, William? Everyone knows your mom is just a poor housemaid at my house. She cleans my room and washes my dirty clothes." The class laughed, but William's bravery had left a mark on Amina. After school, she went up to William. "Thank you," she said softly. "And I'm sorry for what Jason said." William smiled a bit, brushing it off, but Amina could see the pain in his eyes. Despite of his own personal struggles, he had stood up for her. As they walked, a luxury car pulled up, Jason's driver calling for William. "Wait, you live with Jason?" Amina asked, confused. William nodded, explaining that although they lived in the same house, Jason refused to let him ride in the same car, forcing him to walk home every day. Shocked, Amina felt a deep sense of anger. Jason's cruelty went far beyond her. As she was talking to William, Amina's own driver arrived. He turned to William and offered him a ride home. He was surprised that Amina was so kind, so he got into Amina's car and they drove off. When they reached Jason's grand house, Amina said bye to William as he got out. William waved goodbye. He thought about Amina's kindness to him, even though she had had a bad day in the class. But when William walked inside, the warmth from Amina's kindness quickly faded. The first thing he saw was his mom, on her knees scrubbing the floor of Jason's house. The room flooded with dirty water. His mother's eyes were red and swollen from crying. "Mom!" William rushed over, concern filling his voice. "What happened? Who did this?" His mother looked up, sadness written all over her face as fresh tears streamed down her cheeks. She tried to wipe them away, but they only kept coming. "It was Jason," his mother whispered, her voice shaky. He got home a little while ago and just started pouring water everywhere in the living room. I told him to stop, but he started calling me names and saying very bad things about us. William felt a surge of anger fill his chest. She knew why Jason had done this. He was punishing them because of what happened at school. William's fists clenched as he stared at the dirty water on the floor. He couldn't believe how cruel Jason was capable of being. "I'm going to talk to him," William said, standing up with determination. "He can't keep treating you like this." Just then, a mocking laugh came from the top of the stairs. William looked up to see Jason standing there, a cold smile on his face, arms crossed as if he were the owner of the house looking down on his servants. "Next time, remember who you're dealing with," Jason yelled. Then, without warning, he grabbed another bucket full of water and threw it down the stairs. The water splashed everywhere, making the mess worse, some even soaking William's clothes and shoes. Williams was so angry. He wanted to run upstairs and give Jason a beating of his life for all the hurt and humiliation he had caused. But just as he was about to step forward, his mother reached out, holding him back. "Please, William, don't," her mother pleaded. "It's not worth it. We need this job, please." William stopped. His anger became helplessness. Tears began to fill his eyes as he looked down at his poor mother, kneeling on the floor, tired and broken from the endless work and humiliation. William couldn't hold it in anymore. The tears spilled over, his whole body trembling with sobs. His mother got up from the floor, wrapping her arms around him to comfort him. "It's okay, my dear," she whispered as she cried too. "We will get through this, and this will be our testimony." But as William wept in her mother's arms, he made a silent promise to himself. He wouldn't let Jason keep treating them this way forever. One day things would change. One day they'd be free of Jason's cruelty. As William and his mother finished cleaning up the disaster, Jason was upstairs, already plotting his next way to torment them. Jason tiptoed into the kitchen, looking around to make sure William's mom wasn't nearby. He saw William's house key laying on the kitchen table. He took it and put inside his pocket and went back to his room. Later that night, William and her mom were so tired from all the cleaning. They were leaving Jason's home and going back to their house to rest for the night. But when they reached their house, they searched for their house key everywhere, but could not find it. "Oh no, where's the key?" William's mom whispered, her voice filled with worry. William's eyes widened in panic. "Maybe we left it at Jason's house," she said, feeling her heart sink. "I'll go back and get it. Just wait here, Mom." He quickly got into the bus and went back to Jason's house. It was very late at night and the streets were eerily quiet. When he reached the front door, he raised his hand to knock, but froze when he heard voices coming from inside. It was Jason's parents, Mr. Michael and Mrs. Linda, having a deep conversation. William hid behind the flower bush by the door so he can eavesdrop without being seen. "He's completely out of control," Mrs. Linda's voice was sharp with anger. "Do you know he borrowed money without even telling us? And he spent all that money on a party." William's heart pounded as he listened. Mr. Michael let out a weary sigh. "None of our children have ever caused us this much trouble. Sometimes, I regret bringing him into our home after his real mother died." William's eyes widened in shock. What did he just say? He thought, struggling to process the revelation. Jason isn't their real son? Mr. Michael continued, his voice filled with frustration. "We've done everything for him. We treat him like the rest of our children. But he gives us so much trouble." William couldn't believe what he was hearing. Not only was Jason not their biological child, but he had been causing a lot of trouble in their family, just like he had for William and his mom. He felt some sympathy for Jason, but he immediately remembered how bad Jason treats his mom. When Jason's parents stopped talking, William snuck out of the flower bush and knocked on the door. When Mrs. Linda opened it, William gave her a polite smile, pretending he hadn't overheard a word. "Good evening, madam," William said. "I think my mom left her keys here by mistake." Mrs. Linda looked exhausted but nodded. "Oh, the key. Let me help you look." They searched around the living room and kitchen, but there was no key. William knew deep down that Jason must have taken it, but he kept quiet, deciding it wasn't the right time to confront him. After leaving the house without the key, William thought about everything he knows now about Jason. As the taxi took her back home, he kept replaying Mr. Michael's words. Jason isn't their real son, The boy who had brought so much pain and chaos wasn't even their biological child. When William finally made it home, she found his mom waiting outside, shivering in the cold night air. "Did you find the key?" her mom asked, her voice filled with hope. William shook her head sadly. "No, Mom, it wasn't there." With a disappointed sigh, her mom looked around. It was late, and they had nowhere else to go, so they sat down on the steps outside their door. The night became colder, and soon heavy rain began to pour, soaking them as they huddled together, shivering and hugging themselves for warmth. William's clothes were drenched, and he could feel his mom shaking beside him. Tears welled up in his eyes. He wished he could make things better, but all they could do was sit there cold and wet through the long, rainy night. Meanwhile, back at school, Jason's behavior was getting out of control. Every day he got meaner, bullying his classmates and disrespecting the teachers. No one dared stand up to his mean actions, and he seemed to enjoy the power he held over others. His laughter was loud throughout the hallway each time he was abused someone and was mean to them. One weekend, Amina went to visit her cousin, Shiwa, who was a popular actress. As they were talking, a notification popped up on Shiwa's phone. Amina looked at it, and her eyes widened in shock. Jason had sent a DM to Shiwa begging her to respond to his messages, the same boy who had made her life miserable at school. Shiwa noticed Amina's expression and laughed. "Do you know him?" "Yeah," Amina replied, still surprised. "He is in my class." Shay raised an eyebrow, smiling. "Looks like he's a big fan," she said, showing Amina the long list of messages Jason had sent her. Amina couldn't believe it. Jason, with all his pride, had been messaging Shiwa nonstop, hoping for a response. An idea popped into Amina's head. "Shiwa, can I reply to him?" she asked, a mischievous grin forming on her face. Shiwa gave her the phone. "Go ahead, let's see what happens." Amina quickly typed a message, pretending to be Shiwa, and sent Jason a different number saying, "Message me here and we'll chat." Within minutes, Jason's messages flooded in, thinking he was talking to Shiwa, the beautiful young actress. He was so polite and sweet, nothing like the arrogant boy from school. Amina read her messages and laughed so hard, he had no idea it was Amina on the other side. That night, as she lay in bed, Amina smiled. This was her chance to finally teach Jason a lesson. She had been waiting for an opportunity like this for a long time. The next day at school, Jason strutted down the hallways, acting like he owned the place. Meanwhile, Amina, still posing as Shiwa, kept chatting with him. They started talking about the upcoming prom, and Jason really wanted to show off his new girlfriend to the whole school. Excited, Jason messaged Shiwa, "There's a prom at my school soon. It's going to be a lot of fun." She imagined himself walking in with the popular singer and becoming the talk of the school for a very long time. Amina replied, "Would you like me to go with you?" Jason's heart skipped a beat, and he quickly typed back, "Yes, I'd love that." He was already picturing everyone's stunned faces when he would arrive with Shiwa. At school, excitement for the prom was buzzing. Couples were planning their outfits and practicing dance moves, while students without dates searched frantically. But Amina, with his fat body and awkward self, struggled to find a partner. No boy wanted to be seen with her. She was mocked and laughed at. The same went for William, the girl who had once stood up for Amina. No one wanted to go with him because she was poor and the son of a maid. William, noticing that only him and Amina were left out, he decided to ask Amina to be his date for the prom. After school, he approached her, nervous but hopeful. "Amina, would you like to go to the prom with me?" he asked shyly. Surprised and touched, Amina gave him a warm smile. "Yes, William, I'd love to." William was relieved and very happy. He did not want to be the only one dancing alone at the prom. But things weren't so easy for Jason. Now he had two dates, his girlfriend and Shiwa. Not wanting to miss the chance to show off, he broke up with his girlfriend a few days before the prom. "You're just not on my level anymore," he said coldly. His girlfriend was devastated. She had planned everything for them to have a perfect night. But Jason didn't care. He was too focused on his dream of arriving with a famous and most beautiful actress. As prom night approached, Amina and William grew closer because they spent a lot of time together when she drops him off at Jason's house after school every day. She noticed how self-conscious Amina felt, and decided to help her gain confidence. They started working out together, with William putting her on a special diet and cheering her on through every step. After school, they would go run together. Amina was very grateful for the support she received from William. She began to feel more confident than she ever had, grateful to have a friend like William. She has not been lucky to have any loyal, helpful friend before. People were used to staring at her and laughing at her everywhere she went. William and Amina had agreed to go to prom, pretending to be each other's dates. At first, it was just an arrangement, a casual plan so that the other students won't laugh at them when they arrived alone. But as the weeks passed and they spent more time working out together, something unexpected happened. Amina began to care deeply for William. William's encouragement made her smile and feel good about herself. Her weight was also dropping, and she really felt motivated to work out more and eat healthier. By the time prom was around the corner, Amina was looking and feeling like a new person. William and everyone in school noticed the transformation. They were surprised. William was so proud of Amina. Behind the scenes, Jason was looking for money to fund his grand entrance. He did not want to ask his parents, as he was already causing them a lot of trouble. He sneaked into his mom's room one afternoon and took his mother's most expensive jewelries and his dad's expensive watch and sold two, keeping one. With the money, he rented a luxury car and booked a hall for after party. He knew that all eyes would be on him, the prom king of the night, so he wanted to party more after the prom. As the prom day approached, chaos erupted in Jason's house. His parents discovered that their jewelries were missing and searched the entire house. Jason got scared and nervous and decided to take the suspicion away from himself. He accused William's mom, who often helped around their home. "Mom, I saw William's mom sneaking into your room earlier," Jason whispered, pretending to be shocked. His mom was shocked to hear that, and she confronted William's mom. As William's mom began to plead her innocence, Jason suggested that they should search William's mother's bag. Unluckily, Jason had planted his dad's watch in the poor woman's bag. William's mom was in absolute shock to see the watch there. "Mrs. Linda, please, you have to believe me. I did not take it," she cried. "I have worked here for years and I have never stolen anything. Why would I start now?" "Shut up, you thief," Jason yelled. No one believed the woman, and soon the police arrived and William's mom was taken away. William tried to protect his mom. He begged Mrs. Linda that his mother did not steal the watch. But no one listened to him. As prom night finally arrived, Jason stood before the mirror, admiring his suit and all his jewelry. He was ready to make his grand entrance. But there was one problem. Shewa, the beautiful actress he was going with, was nowhere to be found. Jason frantically tried calling her, and just as he began to worry, he received a message from Shewa saying, "Meet me at the school." Jason, who was already sweating in panic, breathed a sigh of relief. He got into his rented luxury car and drove it to the school. He entered the glittering hall filled with excited students and dazzling lights. But as he scanned the room, there was still no Shewa. Just as he started to lose hope, his phone buzzed again. A message came in saying, "I'm outside, come quickly." Jason rushed outside only to find Shewa standing there, wearing a long jacket with a mask covering her face. "Why are you dressed like this?" he asked, feeling very confused. "I have a plan to surprise you," she replied with a low voice. Jason was excited because he thought the surprise would even create a more grand entrance for him. He held her hands and walked inside the ballroom, with everyone looking at him and the masked girl. There was whispers everywhere and people pointing at them. This was just the beginning of the secrets and betrayal that Jason was going to face. A nigh he would never forget in his life. Jason had always loved being the center of attention, and tonight he was happy to outshine everyone like he always does. His ex-girlfriend stood with her friends. She was devastated, and Jason could not wait to show her that she was beneath him. Finally, Jason walked up to the stage with the masked girl he thought was Shewa. He went up to the stage and stopped the band that was playing. He grabbed the mic from the MC and began to speak. "This is my girlfriend, the most famous actress in the country and the most beautiful girl in this country. She compliments me." Someone in the crowd screamed, "Remove your mask." William was so excited to take the mask off as everyone's attention was on him. Slowly, Shewa reached up to remove his mask. The crowd held their breath, waiting to see the mysterious figure behind it. But when the mask came off, gasps filled the room. Standing next to Jason wasn't the most beautiful and famous actress at all. Instead, it was an old homeless woman with missing teeth, unkempt hair, and dirty clothes hidden under the coat. Jason screamed in horror as laughter erupted all around him. His ex-girlfriend laughed so hard that she had to hold her stomach. Even his so-called best friends were giggling. The humiliation was unbearable. He ran off the stage in shame, tears streaming down her face. He ran straight to the parking lot where she saw Amina and William arriving. But Amina looked different. She was no longer the fat girl everyone used to laugh at. She was fit, toned, and was dressed in the most beautiful dress. She walked with so much confidence and grace. William looked stunning too, like a prince in his fitted suit. Jason could hardly believe his eyes as he ran past them. But he didn't care. He was too ashamed to face anyone. He was desperate to get away from the prom venue, so he jumped into the rented luxury car and sped off. His eyes were full of tears, which made it hard for him to see the road. His mind was too clouded with humiliation to notice the tree ahead until it was too late. The car crashed with a very loud bang, completely destroying the expensive car. Jason stumbled out of the car. He looked around the car and saw the damage that he has done to the car. He knew he was in big trouble knowing that he just destroyed the car that he could never afford to pay for. She called his parents to inform them of the accident, but no response. He left the car stuck to the big tree and took a taxi to home. When he finally made it home, he tried to open the door with his keys, but it was locked and his keys could no longer open the door. He knocked and knocked, but no one answered. He called his mom, but there was no reply. Just then, a text message showed up on his phone. It was from his dad. "Jason, we know about the jewelries you stole, and you set up William's mother and hid her house keys. We are tired of you, and we can no longer have you in our home, Jason. Go back to your grandma. You have brought us so much pain and sadness. We gave you everything, but you repaid us with trouble every day." The message read. His heart shattered. He couldn't believe it. His parents had found out everything. His world crumbled as he realized how much pain he had brought upon the family that had taken him in after his mother passed away. Jason could not believe that he did not have access to the affluent life that was given to him. He sat on the doorstep, the reality of his actions sinking in. He would have to leave his school, go back to his poor grandmother in the village he used to live, and somehow find a way to pay for the wrecked car. He wished he could go back in time and make things right, but it was too late. He maltreated William and his poor mother and completely forgot that he also came from a poor background and was only lucky to live with a wealthy family. In chasing a fake life of glamour and sparkle, he had lost everything, and now he was left alone to face the consequences. As he sat by the doorstep, he reflected on all the privileges he has had and abused, everyone he looked down on, and everyone he was mean to. He wished he could go back, but it was too late. He cried so bitterly, and when he looked up, he saw a taxi pulling up to take him to the village. Jason realized that whatever a person sows, when it's time, they shall also reap that. If you enjoyed this story, please give us a thumbs up, leave a lovely comment, and don't forget to subscribe for more. What do you think of Amina, Jason, and William in this story? Let's keep the conversation going in the comments.